All right, so let's get right into it. There's a real mystery brewing in the creator economy, and it's a big one. You've got this platform, right? It's finally making a profit, which sounds great. But at the exact same time, the writers, the very people who made the platform what it is, are saying their income has just fallen off a cliff. We're talking about Medium, of course. And we're going to do a little forensic investigation to figure out the big question, where did the money go?
You know, this quote, it really hits you, doesn't it? It just perfectly captures the feeling at the heart of this whole thing. This isn't just about numbers on a screen or a few cents per click. It's about something much more human. It's that feeling, you know? Like the place you used to hang out, this bustling digital space full of ideas, has just gone quiet. It's about a promise that feels broken.
And really, it all boils down to this one massive question. It's the question every writer on the platform is wrestling with right now. Is Medium even a viable place to write anymore? Can you still build an audience there? Can you actually make a living? Or has the game just completely changed? Well, that's what we're here to find out. We're going to look at all the evidence piece by piece.
All right, so let's start at what feels like, well, the scene of the crime, you could say. So many writers are describing the platform now as a ghost town. They talk about this sudden, really chilling drop and how many people are seeing their work. Imagine pouring your heart into a piece, hitting publish, and then nothing. It just vanishes into this digital void. That's the feeling we're talking about.
And look, this isn't just one or two people complaining. We're talking about a massive crisis of confidence. It really points to a breakdown in this unspoken deal, what some people call the creator-platform covenant. You know what I mean, right? It's that basic agreement. We, the creators, bring the awesome content, and you, the platform, give us a fair chance to be seen and get paid. But when the rules suddenly become this total black box, where you have no clue how it works, all that trust just, poof, it's gone.
So here's where it gets really interesting. This feeling of being invisible, it's not just a feeling. It translates directly into dollars and cents. The stories we're hearing from writers are just overwhelming. And we're not talking about a small dip in earnings. We're talking about a sudden, system-wide crash. So let's actually look at the hard numbers.
Wow. I mean, just look at this. This shows you the new reality in black and white. One writer shared their stats, and it's just staggering. Articles that used to reliably pull in, say, $25 to $40 are now making maybe $1 to $3. If you're trying to do this for a living, that's not just a bad month. That's an extinction-level event for your income. And just when you think it can't get any bleaker, look at this quote. Someone wrote 10 articles. Think about that. All the research, the writing, the editing, weeks of work. And the grand total they earned? 4 cents. I'm not kidding. 4 cents. The return on your creative investment is basically zero. This right here is what it looks like when attention scarcity becomes the system.
So let's zoom out. What does this look like for the entire platform? Well, Medium keeps its official numbers under wraps, but data from the community paints a really clear and frankly pretty stark picture of inequality. Get this, a whopping 94% of writers on the platform make less than $100 a month. Let's be clear, this isn't about who's the best writer. This is a system that seems designed from the ground up to funnel almost all the money to a tiny, tiny group at the very top.
So the big question is, how does this happen? How is this kind of inequality even possible? Well, if you follow the trail of breadcrumbs, all the evidence points to one main suspect, the algorithm. That invisible force that runs the whole show has completely rewritten the rules, and now it decides, in a split second, which articles get seen and which ones just die on the vine.
Okay, so writers have been trying to crack this code to figure out what's going on inside that black box. And one of the most popular theories out there is something called the 20-person test. The idea is it works something like this. You publish an article. The algorithm shows it to a really small test group, maybe 20 people. If that tiny group doesn't click on it right away, the algorithm just decides, nope, this one's a dud, and that's it. Distribution stops, game over, your article's entire future is decided in minutes by a handful of strangers.
So, what kind of writing actually makes it through this trial by fire? Well, it seems like the algorithm has developed a new taste. It now favors these really factual, data-heavy articles, not so much the personal stories and essays that Medium was famous for. And to really succeed, it looks like you need to get a boost from one of their own curators. If you don't get that golden ticket, you might as well be invisible.
Okay, so we've looked at the what, the crazy earnings drop. We've looked at the how, that mysterious new algorithm. But to really crack this case, we have to understand the motive. We need to find the why. Why did they make these huge changes that have totally turned the writer's world upside down?
And all the clues, they point to a very deliberate shift in their business strategy. See, for years, Medium was your classic startup, burning through investor cash. But the new goal?
profitability. And in 2024, man, they hit some major milestones. They crossed 1 million paying members, and then, in August, they announced their first profitable month in 12 years.
But here's the thing. Getting more subscribers was only part of the story. The other part, the part they didn't shout from the rooftops, was a strategy you could call, well, engineered austerity. The company's CEO basically said they got profitable by cutting their cloud computing costs by a massive 50%. And that makes you wonder, right? When you cut the technical engine of a platform in half, where else are those cuts being felt? Because something has to give.
And this whole financial pivot, it lines up perfectly with a big shift in their identity. It really feels like Medium is trying to transform itself from this open platform, a place for anybody to write, into more of a high-end, curated digital magazine. The best analogy I've heard? It's like your favorite local diner suddenly deciding it wants a Michelin star. The menu's different, things are more expensive, and suddenly they're a lot pickier about who's allowed in the kitchen.
So, all the evidence is on the table, we've reached the verdict, so to speak. For you, the individual writer, what does this new reality actually mean? A platform that's finally profitable, yeah, but also super curated and, let's be honest, algorithmically ruthless. What does that mean for your future there? And this really gets right to the core of the problem, doesn't it? It's the total lack of transparency. Like this writer says, the payment model is a complete black box. You have no idea how it works. And that's what breaks that trust, that creator-platform covenant we talked about. I mean, how can you partner with someone when you have no clue how they make decisions, where the money is actually going, or why your work just disappeared overnight?
So, faced with this situation, what are smart writers doing? They're not just sitting around waiting for things to get better. They're diversifying. They're heading over to places like Substack, where they have a direct connection with their readers. They're building up their own personal brands on LinkedIn. They're learning one of the toughest but most important lessons of the internet age. You never, ever build your house on someone else's land.
And that leaves us all with one final, and I think pretty big question to think about. Because this whole mystery is not really just about Medium. It's a preview, a case study for the entire creator economy. As more of these platforms chase profitability, as their algorithms become even bigger black boxes, every creator is going to have to make a choice. In a world full of these systems that want your work but won't show you their work, where are you going to place your trust? Where are you going to place your time? And most importantly, where are you going to place your words?